Hello and a very warm welcome to Middle East Matters. I'm Sanam Shantier. Coming up on this week's show, Turkey under attack. Can the country's tourist industry survive the latest atrocity? Children return to the rubble-strewn streets of Aleppo, but they face a grim, uncertain future. Plus, Egypt's Abu Simbel temple, a monument once threatened by the River Nile's rising water levels, now vulnerable to them sinking. We begin with Turkey, where a New Year's Eve attack by the Islamic State group on a nightclub concluded a bloody year for the country. The gunman killed at least 39 people, including many foreigners, then fled the scene.
He fired one shot on its own, so I thought, it was some angry or drunk man who shot from his gun. But a few seconds later, we heard a machine gun. We were already lying on the floor from the first shot. When I was shot, I had to lie down. I acted dead, so he didn't continue to shoot me.
Now, this wasn't a lone attack. In 2016, Islamic State fighters repeatedly struck various Turkish cities in retaliation for Ankara's support for international efforts to quash the group's activities in the region. Prior to that, that's several years ago, Turkey was listed as the world's 6th most visited country. France 24's Catherine Clifford takes a look at how its tourism industry is now faring after a year of particularly deadly attacks.
The New Year attack on an Istanbul nightclub looks set to mark yet another blow to Turkey's struggling tourism industry, following over a dozen major terror attacks in 2016.
Here, Turkey has gone from a popular touristic destination to a certain way, to a horror show, not a secure country. And it's a reputation that Turkey doesn't really need. Of course, if you look at the Turkish economy depends highly on tourism.
The string of attacks across the country, some claimed by the PKK, others by the Islamic State group, include a bomb attack in central Istanbul that killed 10 tourists last January, a bombing at the city's airport that killed 40 in June, and a car bombing at an Istanbul stadium that killed 44 this December. The country's safety reputation was also worsened by a failed coup on July 15th, which killed at least 240 people. In 2014, Turkey was ranked the 6th most visited country in the world, with an average 36 million foreign visitors per year. From early in 2016, signs of damage to the industry were already evident. In March, the number of foreign visitors dropped 12.8% compared to the same time the year before. By May, this figure had fallen to minus 35% and to minus 37% for the year as a whole. All this has sent the lira tumbling to record lows against the dollar. With many Western countries warning citizens not to travel to Turkey, Ankara has turned instead to the Middle East, developing its halal tourism sector. Some of the victims of Saturday night's attack were Lebanese, Saudi, Moroccan and Libyan. 2017 looks set to be another difficult year for the industry.
Another country at the heart of Islamic State group's attacks is Iraq. And on Monday, a suicide bomber detonated a pickup truck in a busy market in the capital, killing 24 people. The militants also attacked 2 police stations in the city of Samarra. This as government forces fought to regain control of Mosul, known as the last major stronghold for the fighters. Another 4 attacks were also reported in Baghdad, bringing the total death toll to 60 in just 3 days. Now, for 4 years, they endured violence, fear and hunger. Now that the battle for Aleppo is at an end, the nightmare for the children of the city is far from over. They may be able to play in the streets once again, but they've been scarred by years of airstrikes, shelling and street fighting. And still, they have no access to education or basic healthcare. Here's Shirley Sidbon.
In the streets of Aleppo, children are playing again at last. In the past 4 years, this area was too dangerous to stay in. Gunmen were fighting, and the neighborhood was often bombed. Since the city has been retaken by regime forces, the streets are quiet, and many children feel safe.
This used to be a military position. They cut the street with tarpaulin, and no one could cross it. The rebel snipers were on the other side.
The snipers are now gone. On the other side of the city, in eastern Aleppo, the destruction is even more striking. This used to be the rebel stronghold, which was pounded by Russian and regime air forces, leaving residents stranded. 55,000 of them are staying in this former industrial zone. Russian troops hand out food and water.
We've been here for 5 months. The Russians come every 2 or 3 days to give us food.
Mohammed and his older brother Yasser lost their home 4 years ago. They've been moving with their parents from one hideout to another. This is the latest one.
This is where we live. This is the stove. In the evening we go to sleep here. We get the mattresses out, light the wood burner.
Yasser wants to become an engineer, but because of the war, he missed 3 years of school.
I've learned that you have to study no matter what. Even if schools are shut down, even if your house has been destroyed, you have to keep on studying.
Hoping to go back to school is a common feeling among Syrian children. These boys want their classes to reopen, and they're not waiting for anyone to ask them to return.
We told our teacher we want to come back to school. We offered to get the tables and chairs back in our classroom on our own. He said all right, and we started working.
A boy shows his old classroom, the one he had to flee when a bombshell damaged the wall and windows.
Look at this. These are the fragments that fell inside when a shell pierced the protection grid and damaged the window. Then a second shell fell here.
The UN says 80% of Syria's children are exposed to the war. Many seem to have gotten used to the violence.
My friend was killed when a mortar hit him in the stomach.
My cousin was killed by a bomb. We found him in their car.
Only a few meters away from the boys, lethal war weapons are still stockpiled by the dozen.
Now to a monument that's been fascinating archaeologists and tourists for centuries. The notorious Abu Simbel temple has been standing for some 3,000 years. It was saved from the rising waters of the Nile thanks to a UNESCO campaign. But according to experts, today it's facing a new threat. Chris Moore has the story.
Legend has it the sun was created especially for Abu Simbel, so that each morning it could light up the statues that have guarded the entrance for 3 millennia. This ancient temple was built on the orders of megalomaniac pharaoh Ramses II. Tour guide Sharif Adel has been working here for 25 years.
This temple is so huge. You feel almost crushed by it. You can really understand what the word pharaohic means when you're here. Look at the ear. It seems small, but it's just over 1 meter long.
Inside, the statues and frescoes seem to be in perfect condition. But a closer look reveals a few tiny blemishes.
The 4 pillars were sliced into blocks. You can see on the lower part of the pillars horizontal cuts on the stone.
Traces of one of the most incredible salvage operations in history. In the 1960s, work got underway on a giant dam on the Nile, taking with it some of the treasures of ancient Egypt. Abu Simbel was set to be amongst them, but a young UNESCO decided to step in. The monument was cut up into thousands of pieces and rebuilt a few hundred meters away, out of reach of the water. The engineers even recreated the original hill on which the temple was built. On one side is this little-known entrance leading to several hundred meters of tunnel cut into the concrete. This visit is a rare privilege. For the past 22 years, the dome's been closed to the public. On the walls, 360 sensors measure the structure's movement, faced with the effects of time and earthquakes.
If the vault was made of one huge block and it fell on the temple, it would have destroyed it. That's why they sliced it into hundreds of smaller pieces. That way, if one chunk falls down, the temple would be preserved.
These days, it's not rising water levels that are threatening Abu Simbel, but falling ones. Another dam 200 kilometers upstream has caused the Nile to recede.
Water levels are very low this year, and they keep going down. It's because of the dam in Ethiopia.
It's good news for the archeologists, with temples left to their fate half a century ago set to re-emerge. But tour guides are worried that one day there won't be enough water to bring visitors to Abu Simbel.
We end with a song that's making the rounds in Saudi Arabia, and it's ensnared in scandal. It's a feminist song by women wearing the niqab, but they're dressed in bright outfits on roller skates, playing basketball and even dancing. They sing, "If only God would rid us of men, they make us go crazy." In just over a week, it had over 2 million views on YouTube. It is, of course, highly provocative and immoral in the eyes of the ultra-conservative kingdom. I will leave you with some images from this video. Thank you for watching.